Hello everyone. So today let us talk about approval system in Jira and having some kind of ability where you can take approvals from someone is, I believe, one important feature that you may want from a tool. And if you are evaluating Jira, if you are thinking whether you can still have that capability of getting approvals from your stakeholders or maybe your manager moving forward in Jira, then the answer is definitely yes, you can. I mean, in Jira there is a concept of workflow, and today I actually wanted to talk a bit about it because I was looking at. I try to look at the trend and and the kind of questions that people are asking, and because these days a lot of a lot of organizations are trying to use Jira, they are wondering whether Jira can support their processes or not. So I did notice approvals or getting some kind of maybe a feedback, or not always a feedback, but basically asking someone to review your request, or asking someone to basically uh, tell you what to do next. So basically some kind of an approval system. So I was looking at the trend and the kind of questions that people are asking on community and also on my YouTube channel. So I do receive a lot of comments, and also people raise tickets on my Jira service desk, and they send me a lot of emails. So I did notice a few people asking the same question or same kind of question where basically they were looking for some kind of approvals. Now, just to give you some background, in Jira, of course, you know that in case you don't know, I mean, there is a concept of workflow, which is like the key thing. So basically, when you talk about life cycle of the issue, so when you open, let us say, a specific task, that task can be moved to in progress status, then it can be moved to maybe done. And this particular simple life cycle is, of course, fine for doing something like task management. But if you want to implement some kind of maybe a standard process or some kind of process that you may have in the company, your own process in Jira, so you can use the workflow feature of Jira, and you can basically implement a variety of processes. So just to give you some idea, let us say if you're talking about onboarding, where people are maybe added in the system, and whenever a new person joins in, you may want to do few things for that particular person, like give that person access to all the accounts or relevant accounts, give that person a laptop to work on, or do 5 or 10 other things in the beginning. So this is, of course, onboarding process which you can implement. And whenever you're dealing with any kind of request in Jira, it could be, let us say, your service desk, where people are wondering whether they can use Jira for something like change management, for example, where if you need to change something in the system, maybe you want to update your database, your server, or anything, you may need to get approval from someone. You may need someone to first review or give you go ahead. And one good example is, let us say, when people are raising requests for new hardware. Let us say if I raise a request for maybe the latest Mac with 32 GB RAM and the best processor or whatever, so basically the most expensive Mac, so I can of course raise a request, but of course this will not be approved without someone reviewing my request, without someone asking me, Ravi, why do you need this expensive laptop? You just need maybe a 5-year-old Mac. That should be fine for the kind of work that you're doing. So basically in Jira you can actually create a workflow for different projects, for different teams, for different types of requests, for different types of issue types, for example. And within that particular workflow, you can actually define what will happen when the request is approved, what will happen when the request is rejected. So basically the workflow where you have different states and where you have different transitions from one state to another state will define the process, will be your process that you want people to follow. And the good thing about Jira is that apart from, of course, this workflow where you can define the life cycle of your issue, you can also decide, talking about approvals, whether this approval is needed from one person or multiple people in your team, or maybe a group of people, or whether you need approval from all of them, or maybe two of them, or maybe one of them. So you can actually utilize the workflow, Jira workflows, validator, conditions, and post functions. And by the way, if you want to learn how to do these things, you can actually I think I made a couple of videos on building a solid approval system in Jira. Just search within my channel approval, you will find the video, or maybe go to my website ravisagar.in/search and search for the video, or search for approval, and I'm sure you'll find the video. And one key thing that people are always looking for is the information that needs to be captured. For example, let us say you receive one good example is let us say you have to approve a proposal which is more than 100K. So what you can do in Jira is you can actually have these conditions, and based on the conditions, based on the criteria, you can actually route the tickets or reroute the tickets to a specific direction. So for example, what you can do is, maybe if you are using Jira for your sales pipeline, so anything which is less than 100K might not need approval from anyone. But if the potential of the opportunity, of the sales opportunity, is more than 100K, and when you are working on the proposal making, you may want a few specific people within your organization to review the proposal. So you can do that. But when they review it, or whenever they reject it, you also want to capture who did the approval, when was it approved, whether it was approved by 2 people or 3 people. So basically the information about this actual approval needs to be stored somewhere, maybe for audit purposes. And that is the great thing about Jira. You have the change history manager. But what you can also do, what I've also done, by the way, for Jira projects that I worked on doing something similar, I also implemented a few custom fields. So let us say if you receive approval from, let us say, approver number 1, so the field will show and maybe create some kind of a table, maybe, where you can display that this particular request was approved first by this person, then by this person, and of course the date. And you can also define in the workflow what will happen when the request is not approved. Maybe you want to send it back to the original person. So these are the things that you can build in Jira. There are other things like, let us say when you send the request to someone for approval, if the approver is not approving it, maybe for 5 days, or maybe for a specific duration of a time, maybe you can send reminders from your Jira instance to that particular person, because you need approval from them to proceed further. Maybe you have some deadlines, maybe you have some SLAs to maybe you have some agreements with your customer. And maybe even if you don't have agreements, I think it is always good to have some kind of progress in the issue. If the issue is maybe waiting for someone to just review or approve for maybe 2 months, I think there is a problem. So you can define these things in Jira, but also make sure you think about other aspects. Don't make this approval system too restrictive, so that you are maybe stuck in the process itself. So maybe create some kind of these automatic reminders that you can send to people, or maybe just close the ticket. Maybe just make sure that if the approval is not needed, if the approval is not given by maybe within 3 months, maybe just close the ticket or reject it, so that the issue is maybe sent back, or the original requester of the issue is maybe notified. So it all depends on what kind of process you want to implement. But in this video, I just thought I'll probably talk about these things. And by the way, you can do these things very easily on server version of Jira. And if you also have a tool like Script Runner for Jira, you can of course build a wonderful solid approval system. Also on server, you can do a lot of wonderful things. Of course, on server, you have to think about what kind of apps you will be using or you would be using. You can definitely use a script now for Jira for doing a lot of wonderful automations. You can also look at the automation rules that we have, and you can also take a look at the Jira service management inbuilt approvals, because there is a feature, there is an approval system built in. Of course, it is not really very complex. It is very simple to use, but there is a way to get approvals within Jira service management, which I think you should look at. So these are the things that I thought I'll probably talk about, and hopefully I've given you some ideas, some pointers on how to build an approval system in Jira. So that is all I wanted to talk about in this video. I hope you enjoyed watching this video and you learned something new today. Thank you. Thank you very much. Bye bye.